way, then we have the duty and obligation or responsibility, the right to get to the bottom of it. And that's what I've done. I've figured out what's bugging me. And until that thing stops bugging me, there's no help for me. Okay, that's it. I mean, you take relationships with females. I mean, what I'm going through. I mean, I know I mean, it's just a matter of fact and record that guys that have money, that are financially successful, are far more appealing to the ladies, right? Typically, they can have them hanging. I mean, they drive a brand new Corvette and they got the best cologne, and they go to the best barbers, and they live in the finest homes. I mean, stuff that all women find irresistible. They fall over themselves for these kind of guys. We all know it, and a lot of them would gladly live polygamous relationships with these men if there was any social acceptance of such lifestyles. And maybe they didn't get married, but hey, wink, nod. We're married in God's sight. Hey, and so a lot of guys can get away with having dozens of women if they want, right? So if they've got the money, it's all about the money. So you understand that for me, those aren't the kind of women I want to attract. I want one woman. I want a beloved. And the last thing I want is to find riches in that worldly sense, because prosperity is a relative term. Success is a relative term. It's up to each of us to define these terms, and it comes down to values. So what is prosperity? What is success? Okay? What is wealth? What are riches? What is prosperity? You understand? These are about your values. Okay? And what I value above anything this world could ever offer me, I have discovered, is a beloved. That I want this more than anything at all, anything, everything. Okay? That's what I want. And that's why I've been obsessed for months now about this lady, and I'm still very much in love with her. Every time I think about her, I go a little crazy, so I kind of stop and I just say her name, and I think to myself, well, I say her name out loud to myself, and I think to myself, hey, maybe she hears me. And it's a little delusional perhaps, but hey, who knows? Vibrations travel and all that. And just so she knows, I think she's perfect, and perfect for me, and I don't know, I just like everything about her, and I know I could be happy forever with her. But listen, I don't want to get too digress there. That's how I feel about her. Yes, I want her more now than ever before. Let's put it that way, that the love I feel for this woman is growing. And the last thing I want is to attract a woman that wants me for money. And if that's what she's looking for, well, I'm not her guy. And even if I was loaded, I'm not letting her know. I'm going to go to great lengths to hide my prosperity, my worldly wealth, right? And to deceive others, because it's like a white lie, because I am very, very much concerned with attracting the right woman. So I'm not saying I have anything, I don't, but I'm just saying that if I did, okay, then I wouldn't want her to know. King Solomon warned men about the snare to the soul. In other words, he used, but basically that wealth can pervert us. Okay, it can turn us evil. It can adulterate our hearts and minds. Okay, as men, and it's just the source, the genesis for all sorts of evil and wrong values and folly. Okay, all sorts of problems can be created by great worldly wealth. Okay, so I mean, there's a lot of drawbacks, and I openly admit my hatred for money, and I openly admit my love for money. I openly admit this schism, this paradox, and I think we all should be very honest with each other and realize that it is a problem. We're all scared. We're all insecure, financially insecure, and this ought not be the case. None of us needs to worry about this from birth. Okay? And if we had any progress in our land, we would have seen this thing change. People talk about minimum wage. The only answer is getting it to raise, and but we're going to blame them simultaneously for inflation as we give them it makes me want to pull my hair out, shout from the mountaintops that nobody else is talking like me. I'm just saying, let's please, friends, everybody sit down. Let's be calm, cool, calm, and collected. Let's just do the math, okay? Let's calculate the consumer price index, CPI. Let's go back to 1963 and see what minimum wage was and see what you could buy with that. Let's say, let's use a benchmark in time at when it was a $1 an hour. And let's see what the buying power, what could I afford for that? Oh, I could support my family. I could be a homeowner, realize the American dream. I could live a middle class life on a minimum wage income. That's the America I knew. Is Trump telling us that's when America was great? I don't hear that from him. He's not elaborating. He's just throwing it out there. Make America great. Won't say when. Yeah, I'm saying let's calm together. Calm. Cool. Let's just define terms. Let's be honest. Let's do the math. CPI, cost consumer price index, and let's see what the buying power of minimum wage is today. And what would it need to be in order to be commensurate, proportional, equivalent to the buying power that $1 an hour had in the early 60s. Okay? And then, so what is it? It's math. So it's somewhere around 30, 40 on average across the country. In some areas, like very expensive areas like San Francisco, where the median price for a fixer-upper piece of crap, dilapidated house, tear-down house, is $1 million at least. You might get outbid if you had a cool million, handy cash. So, but that's the reality. So you'd need well over $80 an hour. I think bus drivers making well over 100 grand a year can't afford to be homeowners. So that tells you how much bread you really need just to be a homeowner of a piece of junk fixer-upper in the ghetto. Okay, that's what you need. So I'm just saying, this is all calculable. This is inarguable. It's irrefutable stuff I'm talking about. And nobody out there is talking about pointing these things out. Bernie Sanders, supposed to be some great intellectual social democrat. Is he trying to educate the public? Does he use his megaphone? Okay. Does he use his podium with the mainstream media to educate you? Is anybody from the Democrats or Republicans, any of the pundits out there, any of the preachers out there, any of them trying to tie these things together and show you how clear it is and what's going on here and how the problem resides right in our own essence, our own hearts and minds, our spirits and souls. We think these things. We struggle with these things. We've got this intense internal conflict going on, this schism. And only God can help us as individuals. And certainly only God can help us as a collective. Once you feel enlightened and empowered and you realize that you've got a job to do, fighting the good fight, you've got to go out there and you've got to lead horses to water. If they don't drink, that's their business. But you do have to do it. You have to attempt to empower them, to enlighten them about these very simple facts about economics, tie it into spirituality. Talk about the difference between organic suffering and how it's not God's fault. He's not to blame for anything bad that's ever happened since the beginning of time. But if he didn't give us free will choice, we would be automatons. It's as simple as that. So in order to make us in his image and likeness, free will choice was paramount. That was step one. Okay. So this is why the evil people are running roughshod for 1,000 years over the righteous. But there's a time when the buck stops, when God puts his foot down and says enough's enough, when he's not going to allow his righteous children to be bullied around by these evildoers indefinitely, perpetually, forever. He's not going to allow that. Do you understand? So that is the time in history the righteous look forward to. And as each passing day just gets closer and closer, okay, is nearer and nearer. But it's all coming out. We're at a point in history where the knowledge of the ages, the accumulated knowledge, has reached a crescendo, and it's all at our fingertips. So we're all without excuse for not finding it. That's called willful ignorance. And what do you get? If you choose to be stupid, you're choosing to be a coward, you're choosing to be willfully disempowered, you're taking the path of least resistance, well, you're gonna face the music later. And you're going to that place with all those evil people, the hypocrites that live by a double standard. They want one thing for them and their family and their loved ones, and they want another thing for you and your family. That's it. They're hypocrites. And they're going to a bad place with the weeping and the gnashing of teeth, and you're all stuck down there together. And these are the people that are going to rule your life. So that's why it's so important. If you're just on the border and you're not sure which side to go, man, I mean, look, don't be an atheist. There's a God. I can guarantee it. Look at all the science and technology. To this very day, the strides we've made in the lens, the camera lens, okay? and it can't hold a candle to the lens of your eyeball. Do you understand what that means? You understand? We've learned. I mean, this is how the scientists, the creators, the inventors of the camera, they figured it out. They put two and two to go. How does the eyeball work? So they studied it. So cameras are very much like an eyeball, but they learned it first. So we know it's not a question of which came first, the chicken or the egg. We know that God gave us a brain. You had a brain, you needed a brain to make a camera lens. Okay, so it couldn't have happened accidentally. It's absurd. I mean, that's as absurd as saying